Thank you. Good morning. This is Ron. It's January 19th, about 11:04 a.m. And we'll go ahead and get started here. Before I ask if we have any questions, I like to kind of, if we can, see if we have any questions first about what we discussed yesterday, because I like to continue with that discussion from yesterday. But let's see if we have any questions first, because you know how things go. Something may take us in a totally different direction or or another aspect of it anyway. In any questions, y'all? Comments? No questions? Um, I mentioned something to Pastor. I see us as the tip of the spear. And the only thing is that stands in the way is maybe things seems to be uh, not as clear to us because we've never been here before. Maybe things are not as clear to us as they will become. But we are, when I say tip of the spear, we are the enlightenment for the earth, period. And being so, we have not only responsibility to ourselves, but to mankind. Uh, I see this as an empowering thing, and we are to transition in this new year, not the Trump administration. It has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans. It has nothing to do with politics at all. It has nothing to do with America at all. This is a spiritual thing that uh, reflects mankind and where we are at this point. And being the tip of the spear means that we are to usher in this new year. We are the transformation of what is transitioning of what is taking place. And with that in mind, I like to take a closer look at tomorrow, at what's taking place now. This being Biden's last full day in office, and tomorrow is the inauguration. So I like to look at this as a transitioning period and what we see, what we see coming, what we like to see, and not be sitting back anticipating something to happen, but we kind of play an active role in what's happening. Okay. I hope all that makes sense and not kind of rambling. I just see us in this in this as being extremely active. So uh looking at the MLK Day, I don't think that's a coincidence that takes place at the inauguration. I was looking at some things and a lot of facts. The assassination took place in April 4th of 68. And by the end of that year, there was a push to have an MLK Day. Of course, uh, that didn't reach Congress, until it start action on it until 1960 or in 1983, excuse me, when the legislation was actually passed. And then it wasn't adopted by nationwide until 1986. And it was still even year 2000 before all the states actually took a role in it, namely Arizona being the last. But be no mistake about it, South Carolina was also one of the states that had a very strong push against this. So looking at all that, what do you see in this? What do you feel, or what comes to your mind when you think about this and what our role in this actually means? Body?
Yes, good morning, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone. This is GC. Um, I truly appreciate, us being able to reflect on the inauguration and being able to reflect on where we are in the present. I think that our discussions have prepared us to be able to look at this opportunity in terms of us being able to appreciate our consciousness in terms of our thoughts, our action, and our words. And, I think Dr. Martin Luther King holiday being on the day of inauguration, gives us an opportunity to be able to appreciate the spiritual direction of us living in this world, but not being of it in terms of being continuously indoctrinated with false or misleading thoughts. And so I think it's a time of spiritual awakening. I think
Yeah.
it's a time for us to truly appreciate empowering one another to be awakened, that we don't get caught up in the cares of the world to the point that it keeps us in that false mindset. So those are my thoughts, but I was just thinking about it in terms of, Dr. Martin Luther King's last speech, you know what I mean, and how that spiritual transmutation had taken place with regards to that speech. So those are my thoughts, but I think we're in an awesome time of rediscovery of our spiritual journey. I'm done. If there's any questions.
Thank you, George. I agree with you. This is an opportunity, and your statement reminded me of something a declaration that we made some time ago when we said not on our watch. This is our opportunity. This is us being who we have been designed and shapen to be. Uh, if you don't mind, something escaped me, George. I meant to look up the numerology of tomorrow, to see if there was anything there that got our attention. What that date means, if you would please, if you have your books in front of you, please, sir. Um, again,
Ron,
yes.
while he's looking,
Uh,
what tomorrow reminds me of is based on a lot of our discussion yesterday, where we were talking about time, and we were talking about what it is and what it is not, and what should it be, that kind of thing. But it reminds me that we need to stay the course, that we
yeah,
can't bottle up our expectations in a period of what we call quote unquote time, that the seeds have already been planted, and when in the fullness of its time to appear, whatever will happen will happen. And so we're to be about the business of continuing to plant seeds of harmony, and seeds of closeness as a human being, seeds of love, seeds of kindness. And so whatever we see, we cannot be detracted from looking at that encapsulated in a period, in a container called time, because what we do is beyond time. It's in
yes,
time, and it's also beyond time. And so we've got to stay that course, and not we've already said a lot is going to happen. A lot is going to happen. But if no one else understands that, yeah, time can manifest things in a lot of different ways, the physical time.
yeah.
But reality is not that. That is not reality. So we can say what the storyline is, and then we can say what the truth is. And our job is to continue to say what the truth is.
Well said. Thank you. I mentioned something to Pastor. Uh, the more I read and the more I understand things, and looking at the ancestors and the history of man and history of the African and looking at things and we got into yesterday talking about human and being human and looking at that. I think we had it backwards or maybe looking at it wrong. Uh, I don't think we are the ones that stand in the gap for mankind. I think it is the ancestors that are standing in the gap for us. And the us being that one who recognizes his or her humanity and recognizes this is not about gender. This is about being and becoming who and what you were born to be and surpassing that mere being a human and uh, looking at yourself as something far more and than being just a black man who lives in South Carolina or wherever you may be. But we are the empowerment of the ancestors, and all of that is all of that energy is with us. So when Barb talking about the love and the compassion and being the more than that and being stronger than time, all of that comes to mind to me. That is why I think it is important to have this discussion before this inauguration.
Ron, good
Yes.
morning.
Good morning, Audrey.
Wouldn't it be both though? Ancestors stand in the gap for us. We stand in the gap for other people in terms of giving them space to come to some realization of who they are.
Yeah, I can see that. Exactly. I like that. Thank you. Thank you. I guess I'm
Hey,
just,
Ron,
yes, sir.
this is Charles.
Hey, Chuck.
I will listen to what Barbara was saying, and it back to Jesus said, no matter, I might not be quoting it right, no matter what I'm saying, like no matter what goes on in the world, and we're not of the world, we just in the world. So mostly what she was saying that we need to be about the Father's business, no matter what goes on and what goes around us.
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, I can clearly see that. Um, Again, looking at us as our role that we play in this thing, I truly see the scriptures, Charles, that you mentioned that not even being history. I see those as words written down to become life. And as we become spirit, we bring life to those words. So all those are not a history lesson about a man named Jesus. It is not a history lesson about somebody who walked the earth named Abraham or somebody born named Adam. All of those are characteristics of who you are and to show you, be a picture, if you will, for what you are to become and what you are capable of doing and how you're seeing yourself as being more than a mere mortal and walking this earth and being the consciousness of all of this land. So those words on those pages are coming to life as we speak, as we have these lessons on our daily basis. So, but thank you. Anyone else?
I I think Audrey, you about to say something?
Just a small comment. I think it's interesting how did we miss that all these years? I mean, the Old Testament is full of ancestors and how important the ancestors were. How did we miss that for so long?
Yeah.
Wasn't
I
time.
guess because of what religion was teaching
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And it wasn't time.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you think about that, if we had begun by talking about ancestors, then I don't think it would have been palatable to a lot of people because I can remember very clearly talking about ancestors and being told that that was pagan to worship ancestors
True.
when we were not worshiping them. So I think we had to get to a place of trust by those who we teach, and a place where we were comfortable also with admitting that we had been taught things that were wrong, under the guise of religion. So, but tomorrow, I see a not a battle, but opportunity.
Yeah.
And the opportunity that I see being presented to us is um, the opportunity for the African to take its rightful place in the earth. The the idea of the inauguration of enslaver on the same day as there is a celebration for one who did the only thing he knew to do in trying to free um, us as Africans in the diaspora from the bondage that we've endured since we were brought to this place. I see those two as not just philosophies, but I see those two as um, diametrically opposed to each other because one says um, the Caucasian is superior, and no one in the earth has a right to anything that the Caucasian does not allow them to have, the European does not allow them to have, versus one who says that all men were brought into this earth equally, and all men should not only have opportunity, but also should love each other. Uh, he talks about the loving kindness, but he also not talked about his regrets. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about the directions of humanity, and this gives us a chance not only to talk about it, as was mentioned earlier, it gives us the opportunity uh, to be the directors of the energy that is in this earth for the express purpose of bringing balance. Um, Balance is not brought until you recognize there's imbalance. And I think we recognize that. Of course, there's more to the story and the event. When you look at the idea of it being held indoors, um, the reason that Trump did not rail against that is because he had this discomfort about how many people was going to show up on the mall as opposed to what it was the last time. That was his biggest argument the last time. So his ego is what said immediately, let's have it on the inside, as did Ronald Reagan. All of these things points to something. It points to the arrogance of the European. It points to the sincere ignorance of the European. It points to abject selfishness of the European. And most of all, it points to the arrogance that causes the European male in particular to believe that there is nothing and no one on this earth that is equal to it. Everything and everyone is less than. And as we go, there's more to be talked about or to be seen or gleaned from this as we move forward. Questions or comments?
As we tie this all together and look at it and bring clarity to it, add in the flags at half mast. Even not looking at or trying to glorify in any way Jimmy Carter, the flags high and half mast represent something.
Um,
And
half staff,
yeah, half staff, yeah.
mast would be on the ship, half staff. Anyone want to speak to that before I do? Don't be apprehensive.
Just a comment that a lot of the red states are going to raise the flag on that day.
Yeah. The idea of having a flag at half staff is recognizing a prominent official who is deceased and honoring their service to the country. If you look at the personality of Jimmy Carter versus the personality of Donald Trump, the death of Jimmy Carter is overshadowing the inauguration of Donald Trump. Is speaking to, is giving us a picture of two different personalities. Now, don't get me wrong, Jimmy Carter was dedicated to the American way of life, as was all of them, but it was quite different than the attitude of Donald Trump. I believe also that is it half staff and is on the inside in the rotunda because he's already dead. We should not be afraid of something that's already dead. In the rotunda, that's where the body lies in state of presidents who've died, public officials who've died. And that flag being a half staff is honoring that which is dead. So to me, it's actually saying that the American government, the American way of manipulation is dead, with the rotunda representing a tomb as opposed to a space for inauguration.
Okay.
What is it, Audrey? I
I
know
was
you're
just thinking, there's a certain amount of energy in a rotunda. But I was trying to remember if it was negative or positive or what, but I couldn't remember.
well in that particular rotunda. When you consider
Because of the shape.
yeah, and when you consider who's what's in the ceiling, the tapestry that's painted in the ceiling of the rotunda. All of that is a tribute to God. And that God of which I speak is George Washington. And the people don't want to embrace the reality, but George Washington was revered as a god. And if you read the reasoning behind him being painted in the rotunda, the ceiling of it, you will see that he's donning his masonry gear, and the discussions about it revered him as the God who brought safety to America, who helped defeat the British. So there was a sense of divinity in the European, always have been. And if you think that the European didn't think they were God, why did they paint Jesus white? Why do you talk about God as being an old man with a white beard? Why is everything that alludes to divinity white, European in presentation? So I see the rotunda as being a place filled with negative energy. However, that does not have to remain. It's up to us. We have the power. We have the authority to repurpose that energy.
Yes.
We have the authority to say, to declare, to make a declaration about the energy in this earth. We have that power to say that the energy in the rotunda would be the greatest enemy to America and its ways and the ways that it has treated people. The policies of America will die in the rotunda because the life and the energy that's in that rotunda will leave it. In other words, it will be like the breath leaving the body. And I believe that we will see remnants of that during the course of this inauguration. And the remnants that I'm talking about will be observed in the rotunda as the ceremony proceeds. Audrey?
Isn't with Jimmy Carter being laying in state there just recently, and now he's part of the ancestors. Isn't some of his energy there too?
Yes. But the energy, the dominant energy in the rotunda is enslavement. The energy of white superiority. That's the dominant energy in the rotunda.
Okay, I can see that.
And it is up to us to change that. And, and we must do that. We have no choice.
Yeah.
And the reason I say
Absolutely.
we doesn't. The reason I say we don't have a choice is because of who will be in attendance. Think about it. When if you are in a military campaign and you are in the jungle or woods or wherever fighting, the easiest way to deal with the enemy is to get them in a kill box. All of them in one place, which you have an vantage point over them. And to me, the rotunda is a spiritual kill box.
Hmm.
All of the heads of the leadership, rather, white nationalism, white superiority, white Christian nationalism from around the world will be represented in that rotunda. We have a spiritual kill box. And we have the obligation to do what we know needs to be done. And that is to repurpose that negative energy so humanity would benefit from it as opposed to suffer as a result of it. Questions about that? Comments?
This is Vermel. I have a
Yeah.
question. Um, Michelle Obama is not going to be attending the celebration. Is there some significance to that in terms of the African
Yeah,
mother?
I think it is. You remember when we talked about Michelle gave Kamala permission to
Yes.
proceed? You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Um, I believe that Michelle represents the embodiment of the cosmic mother. I'm not saying she is it, but I'm a representative of it because femininity is the cosmic mother, not a gender-based female. But I say her because she is a female who represents that cosmic mother. And I do not want to get into a discussion about gender-based stuff today. I believe that her not being there means that nothing can be birthed. Also, keep in mind that Michelle Obama's roots are in South Carolina. And South Carolina plays a very pivotal part in everything that happens on this earth, good, bad, or indifferent. So I think it's very, um, I think it's very important for us to recognize the event being, her avoiding the event rather, is more than politics. Even if she doesn't know it, it's more than politics. I hope
Thank
that
you. It really does. It'd been on my mind since I'd first heard it, and it kind of struck me, but I wasn't quite sure how it all flowed together. But this makes sense to me. Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? I thought someone else had a question or comment
I was
earlier.
just gonna say, I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about, we hadn't talked about the rotunda because the decision hadn't been made at the time, but it even makes more sense when we say we've got everybody where we want them now.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
Pastor talked about the rotunda and what it means and being inside and being enshrouded in the casket of the rotunda, speaks even more loudly.
Indeed. Had not seen that like that. Thank you. You're right. George, were you about
Good
to say
morning.
something? Yes, sir.
Yes. I was just going to say that, you had asked me to look into the date of
Yes.
1/20/2025. And actually, January the 20th, 2025, the root number is 3. And 3 speaks about, the first number of motion and movement in terms of the flow of energies. And it says that, with the movement of 3, it says magic begins to reveal itself as a spinning vortex of energy introduced. It says that with the number 3, the divine aspects of mind, body, and spirit comes into awareness. And the spiritual energies of the number 3 sets magic in motion, positive thoughts activated, and drawing back to self-positive energies and opportunities. And so as Pastor was just speaking in reference to history, when we look at space and time, and we look at space-time continuum, it speaks about geography, speaking in reference to space, and history speaking in reference to time. So I think as we, look at this inauguration, our energy is one that's now breaking forth or coming into a power, that we have the power to change things. And so that number 3, speaks a lot about energies, and it's like that 3 strong strand of when you plait a hair, when you put that together, how it becomes strong to be able to withstand, those things that come against us. So I just wanted to share those thoughts on the number 3, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, George.
I have
Hello,
a
everyone.
question. This is Charles. When you said the number 3, so I thought it's just me. I thought number 3 means man too.
Yeah. Well, Charles, the number 6 means man. However, as we, talk about how all things are connected, nothing is separated. So to a certain extent, 3 is that strong cord. I mean, 3 is like that complementary form in terms of both balance. You know what I mean?
Okay.
In terms of the masculine and feminine, but at the same time, 3 is that number of motion and movement, moving from what we know to what we must do, being aware that when we talk about the fivefold ministry gifts of the past, the pastor, the apostle, etc., but more importantly, it talks about the prophet being a historian. And I think that what we have been discussing is looking at history, in that way that these energies are now flowing in a way that we are now creating change. But again, Charles, the number 6 represents man, but I think 3 still has a significance in terms of how you may view it. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, man.
So George,
So,
what you said that stood out to me was that geography speaks to space, which I see, and history speaks to time, which I see. And so what I hear from what you're saying is that tomorrow is an opportune time to set in motion those positive energies that Pastor spoke about, which will leapfrog us beyond the boundaries of space and time, in terms of the declaration that Pastor plans to make probably at the end of this session, about the need for those principles of Maya to consume us, consume the world, consume mankind. So it seems that this is saying that the energies unleashed, particularly tomorrow, will be beyond space and time. It just affirms to us what that says to me.
Absolutely, Barb, and I think that this is where we can appreciate our foundation, our beginning, in terms of going back and look at what was written in terms of the earliest instructions, as far as how we are to live spiritually, how we are to live, in terms of our morals, and appreciating, what our ancestors has given us in terms of a way of, looking at our walk and talk with God, or our interactions with each other. But I think it's just, a great time and awareness, for us to be in one accord with regards to where we're moving to. I'm done.
So consciously, it speaks of the death of space and time, in terms of the way we have dealt with it in the past. And so going forward, that will not be something that encapsulates us as a group of spiritual leaders. It will be a freeing, even more freeing kind of thing for us. It's also what I'm saying.
Yes, and I concur, and that's being awoke, right? Or does that have that correlation? To be awakened.
yeah.
That's right.
Sure.
I,
Go ahead, Pastor. Sorry.
I concur with what has been said with one caveat, and that caveat is I don't know about declarations at the end. I don't ever know when they come. um, when George talked about the meaning of the numbers, and and Charles raised a question about three, something came to me when George said that in my words, not his, but what I got from it is that three is a part of man, or three is can be seen as a number of man as well. And what came to me is this: when we talk about the number six in terms of man, I see that as us making reference to the physical being that's called humanity. When we talk about the three, which is divine, I see it as being as also speaking of the divinity that we are. When we talk about God, we're talking about ourselves also. Does that make sense, George?
Yes, no, I can see, the relationship.
Yeah,
When we talk about the Trinity, you know what I mean, and we talk about three being one, I can see, that relationship.
right.
I'm done.
Um, and when you talk about the rope, three strands of rope is stronger than six. The strongest rope is three strands, and that to me speaks of the power and the powerless of divinity itself. So when we embrace that reality of being divine, we then are embracing the power to bring change for the benefit of humanity. I see quite a few things involved in what is taking place. It's like on the continent of Africa, there is a major move to extricate the colonizers from the countries, many countries in Africa, and nationalizing their resources. I see that as a major move on the continent, and I see at the same time uh, the enslaver trying to solidify its power by virtue of uniting European nations with this colony so that whiteness will continue to rule the world. The difference between what happened during the raids in Kemet that led up to the stealing of Africans to enslave them. What led up to that was an establishment of Europeans that they are superior to everyone, and everyone on earth is a subject to them. And now I see a difference in that the the African on the continent is saying no more, as opposed to capitulating. And the ones who are doing it primarily are the young leaders in the different countries. So if you take that and couple it to what's going on in this country, what we begin to see is a transformation, excuse me, a transformation on a global scale because of the African recognizing who it is and what it was created to be. You say, well, all of us don't. Well, it doesn't take all of us. It takes someone to begin a movement, and the movement begins to gather the energy necessary for it to become influential. And I do believe that that's where we are. We are in a space now where we are indeed influential and have been there for a while. And that influence is being felt by those who are on the continent of Africa. And one of the things that really, really stuck with me is that African leadership is not looking at Christianity anymore as a viable force, is looking at it for what it really is, as a policy, a religion that creates the opportunity for the proponents of that religion to steal. And now that it's been viewed that way, we see those changes. I remember when my TV thing was delivered by this guy who was from the continent. He was Nigerian, but was living in Ghana. He said that they wanted Trump because Trump didn't give a blank about them. And he does, the last time he was in office, he did nothing to try to impede their progress. He ignored them as though they didn't exist, and they were able to organize, to do things that they were not previously able to do because America would not stop meddling in their country. And he said now that he is on the verge of being elected again, it gives us more opportunity to do what we want to do. And that made sense to me based upon how Trump viewed the African nations. And when I say Trump viewing it, how he viewed them, I'm talking about Europeans, period, how they view African nations. So tomorrow is a pivotal day in the history of this world, not America, in the history of the world. It's a pivotal day. And it's pivotal because there are so many things that's being brought to the surface all at once. If you have been paying any attention to some outlets, media outlets, what you would observe is there's more and more information about the role of the African in this earth than has ever been. And it's ironic that that's so, because it appears as though it did not flourish until there was an effort by Europeans to stifle, if not hide or destroy, all the history of the African. So now that has become more prevalent, we have more people who are embracing their origin and recognizing that simply because you were born in this on this landmass, it doesn't mean that you have given up your ancestry. You are still an African who was stolen and brought here. The other thing is that as we look at these things, what we also begin to see is that the people who we have been referencing as Native Americans, indigenous people of this country, this landmass, when we're talking about them, we have been taught that these indigenous people were quote unquote Indians. And I know why Columbus called them India, because he was so dumb, he thought he was in India. So that in the name stuff. However, if you look at the photos of the 1800s and the pictures of earlier indigenous people, they were Africans. The people who were destroyed in this country were primarily Africans. And that has been hidden from us. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is this: Africans populated the whole world. And even in populating the whole world, seeing the Japanese, the Chinese, the Europeans, the Filipinos, everybody, still there was the African, the African, original African, for lack of a better term, who was on every one of those landmasses. And what were they doing there? They were there to civilize, to teach their children on how to function. The Aztecs, the Incas, all of them learned from the African, and paid tribute to that. When you look at what's it, the Olmecs on the coast of South, huh?
Olmecs.
Yeah, Olmecs,
Yeah,
uh,
they're called the mother civilization.
say that again. I like that. Repeat,
Sorry, what?
repeat, please.
The Olmecs are called the mother civilization for all the various civilizations here in Mesoamerica.
Okay. So that being said, the same principle is worldwide. So the resistance to the African being the mother civilization means that civilizing everyone that came from its womb. With that being said, then the God in the earth is the African. That is the reason the African is known to be the most spiritual beings on the face of the earth. There are no humans more spiritual than Africans. None on the face of the earth. Um, so the bottom line, I suppose, is that uh, the world is being um, reorganized the way that it was from the beginning. The scripture says that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void. And then he goes on to talk about that in the creation of man, that we are to replenish the earth. Could that possibly be talking about telling us that the earth is coming to a state where the African is going to be dominated by uncivilized people? And the African is going to have to repopulate the earth. And the repopulation of the earth has very little to do with physical birth, but everything to do with spiritual birth. And the repopulation of the earth is not about birthing people. It is about birthing a sense of spirituality. Does that make sense? And I believe that that's where we are now. We are fulfilling that portion of the scriptures. And in being in this space where we are now, it is necessary for us to remind ourselves of who we are, because there were so many of us who have been taught and embraced the thoughts that the people on the continent of Africa don't see themselves as being as we are. They don't see us as being Africans. They see us as being something totally different than them. Well, when last year when Keisha went to South Africa, she her guide was asked her, where did she live? She said, I'm from Georgia. He said, no, I didn't ask you that. You are from here. I asked you where you live. And encountering the same thing now. She's currently in Tanzania, encountering the same thing. So I'm saying that the cover has been pulled off, the eye has been opened, the African has been awakened, and we are beginning to see that there is no difference between the African in Tanzania than the African in Jamaica or the African in Arizona. All of us are the same. And that is making for a more conducive world for humanity. That is the making of a sense of balance and respect for the whole of humanity. And the more we embrace what we have been teaching, the more we embrace the spiritual nature, the spiritual essence of who we are, it then the more we do that, the more we begin to see the continuity of our peace amongst humanity. The idea that 7% of the world's population has been allowed to destroy their earth, has been allowed to subjugate all the humans on the earth, is utterly ridiculous and irresponsible when we look at the reason the African is in the earth. We abdicated our responsibility. And now it's time for us to embrace it without making any efforts to walk in the footsteps of the people who founded this country, or the people who stole this country from the indigenous people who were here. And tomorrow is an opportunity for us to see with a greater clarity the journey that we have been on and the journey that lies in front of us. I'm done. You're muted, Ron. You muted, Ron. Sheldon.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Sheldon. It's not only time that we do that and this opportunity, but we are doing that present tense in the now. Along with what you mentioned about the African nations, I've noticed something since Friday that became apparent to me as well. In terms of you saying it might be, it just takes a few. It's not even a few, it's a lot. Starting back, I could just name a few. Black Panther, speaking more so of the African in terms of their connection with the ancestors and communing with the ancestors and being guided by them. Barbara a few weeks ago mentioned a piano lesson. And then this past Friday, I went and I saw a movie that just came out, and it too was talking about speaking in community, being guided by the ancestors. And in all of those, I've also noticed, but first of all, the movies were directly, predominantly, specifically more so to those of the African diaspora in any sense. Some with Black Panther more so worldwide, definitely the latter two Africans who were part of or lived in, not from, but lived in the United States, etc. There's also a lot less than what has been tradition, any more so mention or huge leaning on any of the Judean beliefs, Islam, Christianity, etc. It was more so of this connections to the ancestors, the creator, the universe, etc. Going back to what is taking place tomorrow, I do see, and Pastor Rich, you mentioned that sitting back with your popcorn yesterday. I believe there's a lot of Africans, especially in the United States, who have taken that approach. Now, what is significant about that approach is, along with the that of being not reconnected, being open and aware with the ancestors, is that traditional European mindset that we speak of. It is more so of, I'm no longer participating in this, and not only am I no longer participating in this, I have no faith or belief in this, where I'm not even putting my energy in this anymore. That entire system was being propped up, in a sense, because our collective energy was given to it to allow it to persist. Now, even for those who don't even understand this from a conscious level, subconsciously, there's a rejection of that. It's like, oh, my energy has been shifted to this. I don't want to say this other thing, but much something that is our roots, something that is much more natural, something that is a lot more aligning, and with our frequency, et cetera. So I just wanted to say that this is a lot more wide spread than it would even appear just from the eyes. I'm done.
Sheldon, repeat again what you said about the frequencies.
I was saying that even on a not even necessarily everyone on a conscious level, where it's definitely those on a conscious level, but even on a subconscious level, the African across the world vibration and frequency has risen to something that is much more natural. In a sense, with the European mindset, the government of this country, which also, as far as the physical world is concerned, has ruled the physical world for a long time. That's what we've given our attention to. And in feeding that particular system with our attention, we have allowed that system to thrive. Well, that spigot or that energy or whatever you want to call it has been cut off, and this has been a process that has already have been taking place now for quite some time, which is why I didn't say like tomorrow's an opportunity and it's not time for us to do something as if we need to change. This is already taking place and has been taking place, for some while. And that was one of the most, like I said, Friday significant things that I actually noticed in the movie was the knowing who the movie was meant for. But this was definitely an extremely Black movie. It wasn't like religious people or anything like that. And the way that connection to the ancestors was actually spoken about and utilized in the movie, like it was just a very natural thing. It wasn't a taboo thing or anything like that. And this is literally too, as you can, I guess, imagine, going any Black regular neighborhood in the United States in the same way you would have thought of in the 50s or I guess the 60s with the idea of a Black Jesus. But instead of Black Jesus is the idea and acceptance of speaking and being guided by the ancestors.
Thank you. I thought I heard what you said correctly. When you said that, what came to me is the one thing that we have been able to do, if nothing else, is to bring a frequency into this earth by our desires. A frequency, a sense of vibration, the rhythm of African existence. And with that rhythm came a sense of unicity. So what I'm hearing is that the reason that the leadership on the African continent is saying you don't need a visa to come because you are coming home. If your desire is to be a citizen of this particular country, that's easy. Simply fill out this form, that kind of thing. That tells me that the sense of peace that we have been talking about is manifesting, and I know if we look with the eyes, what we see is a plethora of chaos. However, because we are awakened, the eye is open and it's making spiritual observations for our benefit. And we are being fed wisdom and understanding by the ancestors. And by virtue of having done that, the African is doing something that it has not done since the beginning, and that is vibrating on the same frequency. And when we vibrate on the same frequency, we don't have to make sure we go to every cranny and nook in Philadelphia, make sure everybody knows what we're teaching. We don't have to run to different places in the world. All we need to do is to vibrate at the same frequency. And vibrating at the same frequency puts us in rhythm with each other. And by virtue of our desire for peace and harmony, the message gets there through the macro. And it is not a separate thing that that the leadership in the different countries on the continent is extending or actually telling us to come home as opposed to an invite. There's no coincidence that that's happening at the same time that in this country, the African femininity is at a higher level of responsibility than it has ever been, meaning that it is standing in the position of birthing and leading us through this tedious on this tedious journey through the minefields of hatred, so that we can get to a place of transforming that into peace and harmony and love and kindness. And that rotunda, with our souls, we seal it. We seal the rotunda just as the pyramids are sealed. The difference is this: the sealing of the pyramids left an entrance to get into the pyramids, especially into the depths of it. The rotunda is being spiritually sealed, so nothing of negativity can seep out. It will be all the energy will be transformed by the African. And even though there are things that appear to be negative that's coming from the lips of the enslaver, even though it appears that way, it is simply encouraging the hearers to be positive in their movements. The positivity of the energy being transformed doesn't mean that those who those who feel like they're superior to everyone, it doesn't mean that they are going to change immediately. It simply means that their negativity, their hatred, and their sense of superiority is not being embraced anymore by anyone, because the African is now vibrating at the same frequency. And vibrating at that same frequency means that we have become spiritually one. We have a sense of unicity that we have not experienced since the beginning of the world. And that means that we are finally embracing the totality of our essence. And the totality of our essence is that we are God. We are the source of divinity in the earth. We were brought into this earth from the womb of divinity, from the womb of our Creator. We were brought into this earth in a divine manner to be divine and to transform the energy of the earth into divinity. And traveling across the world as we did, that was the purpose, to bring all of our children to a place of understanding the necessity of being divine. And having not accomplished that, we have been given the opportunity to do just that. In 2011, when we said, not on our watch, we had no clue that what we were talking about, other than our concern that humanity would have to start over again because humanity would be wiped from the earth. We had no clue that what we were actually saying is that humanity will not be destroyed, because as Africans, we know who we are. We know that we are divine. We know that we vibrate with the universe. We know that the light of all lights vibrates with us and we with it. We know that from everything, from the one who everything came into existence, that is the one who we vibrate with. And in this earth, the divinity is locked in our melanin. And that melanin is a physical manifestation of the life of the life in this earth. And it is filled with the emotions, the principles of Mayat, the history of humanity. All of that is in the melanin that's locked in us. And because we were born from the womb of God, from the womb of our Creator, we are indeed the divinity, the God in this earth. And we must act like that. And now we are not on the precipice of doing it. We are doing it. That's what I got from what you said, Sheldon. Thank you.
Wrapped it up very nicely. Thank you.
Beautifully said.
And it's way more powerful than just words. It makes me feel, not just hear it, but feel and embrace everything that was said.
Sheldon, Ron, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate just a little bit in reference to what Sheldon was speaking about in terms of frequencies. When we speak about the hertz, or we talking about just being in oneness, when we speak about frequencies, on the level of looking at it in terms of something I would recall the solfeggio frequencies, it was just saying that at 852 hertz, that frequency aspires harmony and the return to spiritual order. And as we again look at it in terms of even moving forward, when we are vibrating on a 963 hertz, it talks about arouses a sense of oneness and unity. And I know, Sheldon, we were, speaking in the past in reference to the prayer of the cosmos, when we were talking about being able to appreciate sound and being able to hum, or to be able to look at how our ancestors were able to communicate from a vibrational standpoint. I just wanted to, again, just point out the importance of vibrations. And so I just wanted to share those three because it just made me just think about the importance of vibration. And from that standpoint, I just wanted to share those thoughts. So I'm done. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, George. Thank you. Good energy, y'all. Something crossed my mind when Pastor and Sheldon were speaking, bringing clarity to all that. I remember several months ago, Pastor said something that Jimmy Carter said about the Africans coming together, and he's dead. And I'm just listening to all this stuff that you guys are noticing, that you're seeing all of this stuff coming to pass, and I can't help but think all of that. There's no coincidence that all of this happens at this point. But good energy. Thank you.
I just have a quick comment though, because this takes me back to a lesson that I taught way back in 2020, when I was talking about African beliefs and all of that. But I was also talking about the Gospel of Thomas, and it makes me think again about that, about the fact that it's really important that we shed all the religious beliefs about ourselves and about the Creator, that all those beliefs that create kind of a false narrative. Because when we're in that false narrative, the vibration is different.
Yeah.
It's almost in discord, so to speak. So we have to shed those beliefs and those concepts that create that false narrative about ourselves, about the Creator, so that we can get to a place where we recognize who we are, and then the frequency and vibration is in sync. It's where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
What you just said, a mouthful, Audrey. It's just a lot easier to walk away from discord that you have between you and people than it is to walk away from the tentacles of religion that ensnared us. And the reason is people who we have discord with, we see them with our eyes. And we can walk away from that. I didn't say it's easy, but it's easier than walking away from the tentacles of religion because they are so deeply ingrained in us. We've talked about the non-existence of Jesus and Muhammad and Abraham, etc. We talked about the reality that there are no historical landmarks. There's not even a robe or a pair of sandals that any of them wore. And yet, we find it difficult to remove ourselves from that space of religion. I want to say something that hopefully will help us to do just what Audrey's talking about. I am in the process of reviewing and doing further research into an understanding of the non-existence of those who have been presented to us as being divine beings above everything else, or divine prophets, whatever you want to call it, saviors, etc. During the period when Jesus, before Jesus was presented, the quest of those who had embraced who had embraced Serapis, and those who understand that the name was changed from Serapis to Christos, to our Savior. So their Savior, Christos, Christ Savior. When that happened, there was a schism that took place between two factions. One of the factions said that the Christ or the Christos was spiritual and had no human essence at all. The other faction said that it's Christos and he has to have a human essence as Zeus does, as does Zeus. And the other faction came back with he is 100% spiritual in the sense that Osiris was spiritual without human essence. Now, having said this, I want to ask you a question. If Jesus was real, why would there be a debate about whether it was human or spiritual? If Jesus walked this earth, why would it be a debate of whether or not Jesus had a human body or whether Jesus was just totally spiritual? Why would that be a debate? There's no debate about Audrey, whether she's totally spiritual or with no human essence at all, or she has a human essence and spiritual. There's no debate about that because we see she's walked the earth. There are things that she's left behind, even though she's still living that's in this earth. The remnants of her being. There are no remnants of Jesus. Yet, it is difficult for us to let go of a false image that has been given to us by those who mean us no good. This image that I'm talking about, this religious essence that Audrey spoke about, guess what it has done to us? It changed our frequency. It took us out of rhythm with the universe, meaning that it took us out of rhythm with each other. It turned us against each other. That the rhythm of the religion that is attributed to Jesus or to Muhammad or Abraham, this religion has taken us out of sync, has put us in a place where we rail against each other rather than embrace each other. And understanding the detriment to us that this religion, these religions has caused. Understanding that, we must push harder to remove ourselves from the bondage of these tentacles of religion. We must do everything we can to separate ourselves from this bondage. Because if we don't, yes, we will vibrate with each other. Yes, we will have the rhythm of the African, but we will vacillate, meaning that we will be in and out. You'll be in rhythm today, you'll be out tomorrow. And when you're out, you're cussing everybody out, you're mistreating folk, you're not treating people as you want to be treated. You're treating people the way Europeans told you to treat people, as though they are unimportant and unnecessary until you need them. But when we vibrate in rhythm with the African, with us, everything in our lives change. And as a result of that, we are able to change everything in the lives of humanity because humanity came from our womb. Does that make sense? Can you see that?
Yes, even the physics of the clockmaker. When there are clocks that are put in the same room and they're out of frequency with each other, over time, all of those clocks begin to become synchronized, and they have the same frequency, and the tick and the tock of each one of them is the same. And so our tick and our tock, in other words, our spiritual tick and tock, the rhythm, the vibration, the connection, the resonance must be the same. And that's the way we change the frequency of those who are out of sync. They can't help it. That's the issue. They will not be able to resist it. So I see exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
I concur.
I'm done, guys.
Thank you. Great day. Great day. Great energy. Thank you, everyone. Good place to take a pause and what has been said, and we'll resume tomorrow.
Everyone, let me give them this. What I just said, I want you to do your own research. ACACIAN, Acacian Schism. Google that. ACACIAN Schism.
Tomorrow.
And read it for yourself. Thank you. I'm done. Ron,
Thank-
frozen? I think Ron is frozen. There you
Can
go.
you? My connection is unstable, but
Okay.
yeah, that's
Could you spell that again, please? I'm sorry.
ACACIAN.
Oh, okay. That's what I didn't get. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.